becoming excellent in the skill that can help you the most. And if you don't know what it is, you must find out. You must ask your boss. You must ask your friends. You must find out the one skill that can help you the most, and then go to work on that skill. And that skill will always be tied to your major goal. And if you become very good in this skill, you'll achieve the goal.
And you told never give up.
And never give up.
Never give up. It's a good saying, and it's a good theory for us and for our watchers too. What helped you in your life not to give up? I'm sure you were in many difficult situations in your life. What was it? Do you have any religion which helped you, or any belief?
I very much believe in God, but I sort of grew into that.
Were you brought up as a religious kid?
Well, not really. I developed a very, very strong belief over time. I never...
May I ask, what's your religion?
I don't have a religion. I just believe in God. And I study spiritual books and things every day, but I don't belong to a church. When I was a young man, I went off to see the world, and I traveled across the Sahara Desert. And I was 20 years old. And I thought going on a trip would be like going from one end of Hungary to the other. You know, you get in your car and you drive. So I started with a Land Rover in Morocco and started off toward the Sahara Desert, and with two friends. And I almost died. The Land Rover broke down several times. We became very ill. We got arrested and thrown in jail. We had a whole lot of things. And we were very innocent. We were just from a very protected society, 20 years old, and we'd set this dream to go from the United States to go to Cape Town in South Africa, to go all the way from one end, from Europe, from London, England, all the way to Cape Town. And we thought it was just a big trip, and we didn't realize that the desert was 1,500 kilometers across. 1,500 kilometers, and not a blade of grass, not a fly. It's as flat as this table, and it's orange sand, and there's nothing. And by the time we got to the desert, though, we had been through every setback, every breakdown, every disappointment. By the time we got to the desert, we were ready to cross the desert. And the crossing of the desert was one of the most difficult things we ever did in our lives, and we almost died in the desert. And after that, I realized that if you persist long enough and hard enough, you can cross any desert. And everybody has a desert to cross. Everybody has times where they are working for a long, long time, and they don't seem to be having any success. They have a bad relationship, or a bad job, or a bad career, or they lose all their money. We lost everything over and over again. But if you keep persisting, the law of probability says, it's an interesting thing, is that if you have a series of bad luck, the universe will give you a series of good luck to balance it out, as long as you persist. As long as you persist, the pendulum will swing back. And all successful people realize that. That's why they never quit. They know that if they don't quit, the pendulum will swing back. Many people quit just before the pendulum comes back. Right when they're having all their bad luck, or their bad times, they quit. But if they had just stayed a little bit longer, it would have swung back, and they would have started to have all kinds of good luck.
Yeah, you're right. Most super people say, I can do whatever I do. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. Gina Lollobrigida, you know, the famous actress, was my guest a couple of months ago.
Really?
And what she told me that she realized that God gave her success in her professional life and didn't give her anything good in her private life. And that's it. So she accepted it. So things are happening to you, or the balance just happens to you, and you cannot, I mean, there is no so much things to do about that, isn't there?
Yes. Well, it happens. And again, some people will give up everything in their private life for success in their public life. And if you do, then you're going to have the difficult experiences in your private life. This is why more and more men and women today are becoming very, very adamant about balance.
Yeah, what you say is that I told in my introduction that you changed many people's life. Yes. You gave ideas, you're talking to people, to thousands of people all over the world, and you changed them. My experience is that what people are very much afraid of the change. So the most difficult thing is to achieve with someone, even with you or me, to change.
Yes.
And there was a good anecdote. I heard it from your lecture about Einstein. How's that?
Yes.
The professor and the exams, the papers in the same year. Or
well, when he gave the same exam to the same class 2 years in a row, and they asked him why he would do that, and he said, because the answers have changed. And the answers in your life are changing all the time. You see, that's why successful people think about the future. They think about creating the future. And so we say, don't use the word change. Instead, use the word improvement. So instead of saying, I'm going to change my life, say, I'm going to improve my life in this area.
So the questions are the same and the answers are different, even within 1 year in physics and science. So we can say that the information and the changes are getting more and more quick as life goes on, as our lives are going on. And how can we adapt to it? Because we are not so changeable.
Well, if you realize, if you're clear about what you want, and you simply keep adjusting your actions so that you are still aiming at what you want. There's a famous story about Isaac Newton, Sir Isaac Newton, the greatest physicist and mathematician of his day. And they asked him how it was that he was able to make such great contributions, and he said, because in all my life, I never thought of anything else. That's all I ever thought about, was science and mathematics. And there's a story about a traveler in ancient Greece who stopped an old man by the side of the road, and he asked him, he said, excuse me, sir, he said, how do I get to Mount Olympus? And the old man turned out to be Socrates. And Socrates gave him a typical answer. And he said, if you really want to get to Mount Olympus, just make sure that every step you take is in that direction.
And we're saying this information, the answers are changing every
changing.
year. What is your newest thing? What is your newest experience? What is the newest thing you can teach us?
One of the most important skills in business is the skill of negotiating. So we have 14 laws in negotiating. And one of the basic laws is that what we call the law of maximization. Everybody you negotiate with wants to maximize their situation. They want to get the very most for the very least. And so never be surprised at that. And another principle we talk about is the law of preparation. That 90% of a successful negotiation is the preparation that you put into it. And the person who is the most prepared will get the better deal in any negotiation.
What do you mean by being the most prepared?
The most prepared means that you sit down and you think through everything that the other person may want. Like, for instance, you were talking about a project that you were working on. Well, the way you would prepare for that is you would imagine you were the other person, and you'd make out a list of everything that the other person would want that would cause them to enter into this negotiation. And you would think it through from their point of view before you began to prepare your own argument. And once you had thought through everything that they might want, what they might ask, where they would be skeptical, what their situation is, how they could benefit, always think of it from their point of view, knowing that they want to get the very most and the very best from the very least. Then you organize your proposal. And when you present your proposal, you're going to have a much greater likelihood of success because you've already thought it through. Many people just go in with what they want. And if the other person has thought through your situation, the other person will have an advantage over you.
And you know all the laws of successful business.
Yes.
Is it always that it works? I mean, didn't it ever happen to you that you just went there, you just met someone, it just happened, you got it, you happened to come to Hungary,
yes.
a kind of Taoistic approach. So